Hi, my name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video we'll be talking about some basics when it comes to a bandsaw. Check out the video. Now, in my opinion, a bandsaw is one of the most versatile tools you can actually get in your workshop, and I'll show you why in just a few moments. But let's have a look how this machine is actually built and how to operate it. All the information I'm going to be showing you will be based on my particular bandsaw, which is from Charnwood. The model is B250. Most of the cases you will get a similar design to all the bandsaws with obviously slight iterations to them. The bandsaws usually come in different sizes and they are referred in inches. For example, this is a 10-inch bandsaw, and what that means, the distance between the pillar here to the blade itself, it's 10 inches, and that's how much material can fit in this gap. Another important factor is the depth of cut. In my case, it's 6 inches. So the bigger the bandsaw, the wider, bigger boards you will be able to cut on this tool. But how does it work exactly? Well, you've got a blade that's located in the center of your table, just over here. And if we open these two compartments, you will be able to see a top wheel and a bottom wheel. And as those wheels spin, the blade goes downwards into your material as you are cutting. Hence, it's a very safe tool to use as it makes sure that your workpiece is pinned down by the blade to the work surface, and the potential of kickback is more or less non-existing here, although probably in some cases possible. But I would class this as a very safe tool to use. Like with any tool, you need to set this machine properly to give you really good results and to be operated in a safe manner. For example, the tension of the blade, that's regulated by the knob at the top of my machine here. So if I, for example, want to change the blade itself, I release the tension and then I can take the blade off. Now let's talk about the throat of the machine, as there is some interesting information that you need to know here. Okay, the blade itself is guided by some, in my case, bearings that are located on either side of the blade and also at the back of the blade. A similar setup is just below the table. Now the job of that is to make sure that the blade doesn't wander off to any of the directions and more or less it's stable in one position. Now as you are pushing your material through the blade, there will be some friction and there will be some forces depending on what you're cutting on the blade itself, and to prevent and minimize the movement of the blade, the bearings are here for that. It's also very important to keep those guides as close to your material. So in my case, I've got a knob over here, thanks to which I can lower the guard down, I can lower the bearings down, so they are as close to my material like so. And now the stability of the blade will be far greater if, for example, the guide would be a lot higher. So you've got more chance of flex in this position, rather if you were too low the bearings to more or less just above the thickness of your material that you are cutting. My particular bandsaw comes with a cast iron top, which I'm really happy about as it is dead flat and has not caused me any issues so far. It also comes with a fence that I can attach at the front to guide my material through. It also comes with a miter gauge, which is very helpful if you want to do some cross cuts or angled cuts. At the bottom of my particular saw, I also got a shelf, a container here where all the dust goes to if my shop vac is not connected to the machine. Over here, as you can see, I've got my on-off switch, Plus, this particular saw has got a LED light that's located at the back of the machine. At the back of the machine you can find the motor. In my case it's 375 watts. It's enough for what this saw can actually tackle. On top of that you've got a dust port just over here with various sizes depending on how large your dust hose is. It will more or less fit those attachments that are located here. As mentioned before, that's the LED light that's located here, and that knob over here allows you to move the top wheel into alignment, i.e. it will go left to right, making sure the blade is not coming off or at a weird angle on the wheels at the top and at the bottom. Right, so that was just a quick overview of the machine. In a theory, it's a fairly simple design. You've got a continuous blade that is being run by two wheels, one at the top, one at the bottom, where the bottom one is actually powered by the motor that's located behind the machine. To run this machine safely and accurately, you need to be able to set it up correctly, i.e. have proper tension on the blade, have the bearings set up correctly so they're not rubbing on the blade. They are slightly away from the blade, but they are there to support the blade so it doesn't flex too much. On top of it, there are different types of blades that you can use on bandsaws. Depending on your make, depending on how big your bandsaw is, that will dictate on what size of bandsaw blade you will be able to put in your tool, and depending on the size of your blades, how much TPI they've got, how wide they are, you will be able to tackle different types of jobs. So the thinner the blades, you will be able to do harder curves, for example cutting circles. However, if you go for a wider blade, you will be able to resaw material a lot better. And also to play with that comes the TPI, number of teeth per inch. So the less teeth you've got, the higher ability for the bandsaw to resaw some thicker stock. However, with blades like that, the quality cut there will be far less than if you went with a blade that's got a higher count of teeth. More or less is the same principle as if you were using a blade for your table saw or a blade for your circular saw. The more teeth you've got, the higher quality of the cut. Whereas if you go the other way, if you've got less teeth on your blade, then it's more suitable to resaw material. Now it's time for me to actually show you what this tool can do. So you can do some rip cuts freehand. Or with a fence. You can make some cross cuts. What this tool also excels in is cutting curves and circles. You can also do some resawing that's far safer than if you were to do on a table saw, for example. Although for sure it's much slower process than if you were to do it on a table saw. Now with a bandsaw, what you can actually do as well is you don't have to put any pressure by your hands on the piece of material. Like here, I'm just letting the material go and nothing will happen to it. There won't be any kickback. As the blade is going down, it's actually pinning the material to the table itself. Hence this tool is really safe to use. Obviously you need to pay attention to what you're doing, but this gives me the ability to grab a push stick when I'm getting to the end of my cut to make sure my hands are not near the blade. But also I can actually grab the material behind the blade as well and pull it from behind. What you can see here, that my blade is really dull and I need to change it first of all. Second of all, usually you will get a really rough surface when you're actually cutting materials on your bandsaw, again depending on what type of blade you've got on. With the miter gauge provided, you can also do some miter cuts. However, that's not all. Most of the bandsaws will have a tilting table that will give you the ability to cut bevels. And with the miter gauge, we actually can do compound cuts. Also, thanks to the cutting capacity of these types of saws, for example, if you got several boards that you want to round over the edges, you can actually place one on top of each other, use some masking tape and just cut out the shape you want in several pieces at a time, making sure that they all gonna be the same. And that can save you a ton of time. This tool is also perfect if you want to cut a notch in your workpiece, for example an L shape like that, or even in the middle of your workpiece. Let's do that now. As you can see, it's a highly versatile tool. Sure, it may not be perfect for rip cuts because how slow it is, but it's definitely a much safer option to do so. And on top of it, especially when you've got lumber that's not 100% true, flat and all that, it will be far safer to make the rips on this tool. This tool also gives you the ability to have your own tables, jigs and everything else, and thanks to that it will give you a higher scope of making some really amazing cuts, some really intricate shapes as well. Now this video is only an introduction video into the world of bandsaws to see how they look, how they operate. Now if you're looking for more information of how to set a bandsaw up correctly, what blades to use for what particular jobs, how to replace a blade, that information will be in my next video, as there is just too much to say and show in one video. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some good information. If it did, drop me that like button down below and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, so you won't miss my next video when I'm going to be tuning up this bandsaw, changing the blades, adjusting the bearings, making sure the tension is correct as well. However, for today guys, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Take care.